So today I was dabbling in some news, taking a break from my daily routine of working, as I usually do. I came across some interesting news about certain characters within the TikTok sphere that many people probably know about already. But in case if you managed to stumble your way to this measly channel, well then hey, it's news to you, or you just wanted to come to hear a different opinion that may just be in the same vein as a lot of other YouTubers who have already posted about it. But pretty much, we are talking about Mizzy from TikTok and the whole entire concept as to why TikTok is just nothing but a brain rot soup wasteland, and how Mizzy and a couple other people who are related to some Mizzy stuff sort of infect not just the minds of themselves, but the people who watch it and are entertained by this kind of content. So Mizzy is a TikToker, or at least he was, because now he's currently being convicted to 18 weeks in a young offenders institution, which I'm sure things are different in the UK as they are here in the US. So whatever that may be, regardless, he's being convicted for 18 weeks for the crimes that he's done as a 19-year-old, going around stealing people's dogs, breaking into people's homes, and just being an outright degenerate on the streets of the UK. Everybody has seen his stuff, at least to this point now. It's been months of him running around with his squad of goons, going around and pretty much being a nuisance in the town. And he's finally seeing punishment for that. He's getting his consequences, his due justice, and is going into the prison system for the crap that he's done. Now, a lot of the stuff that he's been doing has been just all for the sake of social media, and everybody has been trying to get a little bit of grasp of some clout or some recognition to where their name can be said about something. And a lot of people can go by the notion that there's no such thing as bad press. And if you're going to put your name to something that people are going to recognize you for, people are going to talk about, then you might as well just do whatever you want. And Mizzy is no exception to this. People probably recall the entire thing with Tanner Cook, the guy who was a TikTok prankster who got shot as of recent, and he just decided to come back and continue making videos. Now, I checked to see if he was still making some videos, and it turns out the last thing he made was about a month ago, and then he made two other videos a month prior to that, up until when he made his I got shot video. So he looks like he hasn't been active, at least in terms of YouTube. I don't have a TikTok, so I don't know if he's posting there, and I can't see too deep into Instagram because I also don't have an Instagram. But from what I've been seeing in terms of his content, it seems to be virtually the same stuff. Granted, the one that he just recently posted on YouTube is a bit more tame than some of the other stuff he's done, but that doesn't excuse the fact that he's still going around essentially being a degenerate and getting some sort of enforcement involved with his quote-unquote pranks. And then, of course, the other big topic, too, was the Alfred Lewis one, the guy who punched people in the back of the head, all for clout. Literally admitted to it that it was just to try and get famous, and ended up being charged for his crimes, him and the person that was recording with him. So what does this come to? Why are we seeing so many people nowadays going online, particularly young people, people below the age of 21, going on TikTok and essentially doing very degenerate stuff? So I'm not a psychologist, but I was young once, and there are some things that I did in my youth that I would consider dumb. But I wouldn't consider myself to be a person that would just go around and just aimlessly swing at people, steal people's possessions, or even bother or go out of my way to ensure that I'm making people feel uncomfortable around me. And part of that reason could be because I didn't have a camera following me everywhere to record my degeneracy when I was just a young lad. But I think also part of it is because I actually had good parents, or at least pretty decent parents, that told me the things that I should be doing, being a good person, being respectable, and things that I shouldn't be doing, such as randomly beating the fuck out of somebody or stealing somebody's dog. or going up to people and trying to make them feel as uncomfortable as I possibly can. Does this mean that the parents are encouraging them? That's a question of dispute, because as we can see in the case with Tanner Cook, it does seem like his parents are encouraging his behaviors. In the news articles and the interviews that his dad had undergone around the time when his son was hospitalized, he seemed to have been dismissing a lot of the stuff that his son was doing to these innocent people. Now, in the case of Mizzy and Alfred, after doing a quick look into it, it doesn't really seem like their parents are involved, or at least they're not saying anything about it. So we can't really make too many assumptions here. There could be the chance that Alfred's parents were very discouraging of the fact that he was doing this stuff. Maybe they didn't know that he was going out of his way to punch people in the head and posting it online, because maybe they have TikTok too, but they're not going to be seeing this kind of stuff unless if it goes viral. Right? And he only posted maybe a handful of videos. Whereas with Mizzy, he was posting left, right, front, and center, going around with his friends. There could have been a good chance that either A, his parents were not involved because they're not involved in Mizzy's life, or B, they just don't simply give a fuck and they're just letting their son do whatever the fuck he wants. Regardless of the fact, the parents have a play, whether if they do something or not. The absence of action doesn't absolve you from the responsibility of those who are doing harm to others. Now, if you are directly involved with this person, your son, and you don't know what's going on with that, with what they're doing in their personal lives, there's not much you can do with disciplining them. Now, if they are involved, then they're equally as responsible for the actions of their children. If they knew that their children were doing stuff like this and were perfectly fine with it because they were getting a level of fame, then it's degeneracy on the parents' part too. They see a bankroll coming in with a certain amount of cash that maybe they hadn't seen before, or that they're proud that their child is making that kind of money off of the content that they're trying to produce. I don't know. But what we are seeing, though, is that regardless of the parent's interaction in the child's life, there are people coming onto platforms like TikTok and YouTube and Instagram that are creating content like this. And it's pretty sad, because imagine you're going about your day, and out of nowhere somebody comes up to you and starts bothering you and starts shoving a camera in front of your face. And if they're shoving that camera in your face and you don't want any of that attention, especially knowing what's going on now, why would you want to be involved in something that could put you into an uncomfortable situation? Why would you want to be put in a situation where you may feel threatened, or you may not want to be lambasted online because you're doing something that is personal to yourself in that space? Like, say if you're a beachgoer and you're wearing certain clothing and they're coming up and they're bothering you, and maybe you're not comfortable in the way you look. People online are terrible. People obviously watch this kind of content, and if they support it, then they're going to support their creator, and then they're going to bring down the people that are being blasted in their videos. So maybe you don't want to be subject to that. And now that we see all these people coming about, and we do see that people are getting punished for these actions, that begs the question, should people like this be genuinely punished, and is the punishment enough? Now, in my opinion, in the case with Mizzy, 18 weeks is not enough, probably. He probably deserves more, because the stuff that he's done is relatively like petty thievery at the most. He stole a person's dog. Granted, the person got their dog back. He's broken into people's homes. 18 weeks doesn't seem like, that big of a punishment. And then we don't know exactly, at least I don't know. I've been trying to look it up, but I don't see an exact number with Alfred Lewis's case on him beating people up in the middle of the street All I know is that he's charged, but maybe later on we'll see something about his case. And then unfortunately with the case with Tanner Cook, he ended up getting away with it, but granted he got shot out of the end of it, even though he's capitalizing on the fact that he was shot for the sake of YouTube. And then that just goes to exactly what we're trying to talk about here is now that they've been punished, is that enough? Is the punishment far enough to where that these kinds of people are not going to reoffend? And the problem is once you have that bug, right, of wanting to get a certain level of fame, if you care so much about it, you really want that clout, or that you got bit by the bug, you reached a certain level of fame or infamy, if you really want to spin it, like Mizzy, for example, where he ended up getting a pretty big following, and even Tanner Cook to a degree. Now that you have this clout, are you really going to give it up? And it seems like the answer is a unanimous no. And I can give you two examples. Obviously, the case with Tanner Cook, after he had been shot for obviously disrupting somebody's personal space, and the matter with that soup I don't want to get into because there's levels of complication to it that requires its own analysis, and there's plenty of other people who have already dug deep into it. He's clearly come back and is now capitalizing on the fact that he was shot for the sake of clout. But now we come to the other side, which is a pretty similar case, but still goes to the fact that people who, once they have had an ounce of clout or even a huge amount of clout, that they're not willing to give it up because they've seen what it's like to have that. And the case obviously is going to be Boogie 288, right? Everybody has been talking about Boogie as of right now, and I feel like there's a level of similarity here. Granted, Boogie is a YouTuber, OG YouTuber way back in the day, compared to TikTokers now, but what we have seen, and it's apparent if you've seen the documentary, that he's not willing to give up that level of fame that he has. He had the easy life, and he threw it away for being a dumbass, and he doesn't want to let it go. And nobody would want to let it go. If you received a certain level of fame and you have no way to recover from that level of fame, if you've done something dastardly, which is a weird thing that's happened a lot nowadays, as like another example with the Colleen Bellinger doing another apology, an official one this time instead of a dumb ukulele song. I mean, people just don't want to let go of the things they have, even after the consequences of their actions that were stupid. So in the case with Mizzy, is he going to recover after his time in the slammer? And the answer is probably no. If nobody else of a similar vein who has had an ounce of clout would be willing to sacrifice it to go back to a life of normalcy, what makes you think a person like this is going to do the same? The chances are he is going to come back. Now, whether if he's going to be doing the same stuff, I don't know. There could be a chance because maybe some people think that if I got famous off of this certain way, that if I keep doing the same thing, that I will be able to maintain the status quo, or he will probably change his entire repertoire. Regardless of the fact, this is not going to end the degeneracy with people like this. People are still going to spawn into the TikTok sphere and YouTube sphere and produce shitty content like these people that I mentioned prior. And when they create content that is harmful to others or themselves or both, then they're going to be receiving consequences for their actions. But unfortunately, the consequences aren't enough because 9 times out of 10, these people are anywhere between the age of 18 to 21, with the exception of Boogie and Colleen Bellinger, and they're YouTubers too. But they're going to be very young people and they're going to do dumb shit, and then people are going to say, although they're adults, they're still dumb young people, and we should treat them maybe a bit differently. I hope that they do end up getting treated like adults, because I think more people in that age bracket and younger, those people who follow the type of people like Mizzy, and all the others that I mentioned, need to learn that doing this kind of stuff is completely degenerate. And I don't understand why you would want to do actions such as these, especially if you were on the receiving end. Would you be okay and laugh at the fact that you just got punched in the back of the head, or had your dog or cat stolen, or were broken into your own home? If you are a normal person and would say, I would not like any of that stuff, to the point where you might even defend yourself, why even fucking do it in the first place? But I don't know. This is just my take on pretty much all this TikTok bullshit. I think it's dumb. I think people are going way too far with trying to get famous in the dumbest ways possible, by putting in zero effort and harming others around them, and it ends up just backfiring in their face. But it's awesome because I get to laugh at this kind of stuff, because hey, there's always going to be somebody stupider than the previous person you met. So that's it for me. I'll catch all y'all later. Peace.